it's nice that I can say that, we had a chance to do it. Nobody could take that away from us. In our eyes, I think we was gonna win the national championship. So I
Me
guess
too.
nobody will ever know. We were playing really good basketball. We had all the things that we kind of needed to make a run. So in my eyes, I'm gonna say we accomplished everything. We lived up to the hype, and all that.
In today's episode of Titus and Tate, we are going to be talking to the 2019 Big Ten Player of the Year, an All-American, the all-time Big Ten assist leader, Cassius Winston, joined us from his apartment in East Lansing, I believe, Tate. I believe he's quarantined like the rest of the country, right?
Yeah, who would have thought that college basketball players are just like the rest of us? So he's playing Call of Duty, he's playing Warzone, he is just sitting around, and he obviously has a lot of free time because he won't talk to us. So what a day!
Yeah, unbelievable. Cannot thank him enough. We talked to him for about 20 minutes. It was fun. He seems to be like all of us, just kind of in denial that this is what he is doing with his march, is just kind of sitting around staring at the wall. But anyway, we're going to talk to him. We're also going to break down this big news that the HBO is releasing the tapes. Tate, it's coming. Will Wade, Sean Miller. It's coming, or is it? I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? But
it's
there's a new
coming.
Yeah, there's a new documentary coming out. HBO is putting out at the end of March that has the tapes. We've been clamoring for the tapes for years, and HBO has them. They are going to release them. We couldn't be more excited about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Also hit some news and notes around the country, and Tate's fascination with trying to find out who it would have won the national championship. He's crunching the numbers. He's running the simulations. He's doing the simulations of the simulations to determine the best simulation of all.
I am an aggregator. I am aggregating what everyone else is saying about the national champion, and I'm trying to figure out, based on their ridiculous picks, who the actual national champion is. Because it's the way that you react to it as well. You know what I mean? Because if you think you want to be the national champion, you don't get to be the national champion. There's a grace to it. There's a humility to it. There's an art to it, and we're trying to figure out what that may be. And because I want to crown a national champion, I want to figure it out.
You're gonna find 68 different outlets that have declared national champions through their simulations, and then you're gonna put those in a bracket and simulate those results, and then it's never gonna end. This is what the 2020 tournament's legacy is going to be. It's going to be 70 years from now, and people are still running like simulations and algorithms and all that kind of stuff. And I think I'm the only guy. Go ahead.
No, whatever fan you're talking to, they would have won the title in 2020. Whoever you're talking to, if you're talking to an Auburn fan, you're like, look, that Auburn team, I know that they were struggling for a little while, but Samir Dowdy, they were going to win it that year. 2020, that was their year. And you just do that with whatever team you're talking about. You're like, that Georgia team, they're going to go on a run on the SEC tournament. You know what I mean? Tom Crean would have gotten to the tournament. And then once they're in the tournament, anything could have happened. That's the
last show I crowned like 5 teams national champions, and then I had fans reaching out to me like, "What about our team?" And I was like, "Sure, put them on the list." Baylor, forgot about you. Add Baylor, why not? Just keep it going. Everyone's a national champion.
Yeah.
We're gonna see where this thing goes. We're quarantined. Let's get weird, America. It's time to get weird. That's what the show does best, and that's what circumstances call for. So that's what we're going to do. All right, it is Thursday afternoon. This is day 8 of the quarantine by my count. Officially, Tate, where do you start the quarantine counter? I started on the 12th, last Thursday, which was when we found out the tournament was basically canceled. That's when I feel like everything kind of came to a head, and it was time to just lock yourself inside your room. So if we're going off of that, this is day 8 of the quarantine. Is that what you would say is the start of all this?
I'm currently on day 7 of the quarantine because for me, I have been absolutely locked away from people for going on 7 days. In fact, dating back to my birthday, which is Friday the 13th, where, again, I joined the 27 Club on Friday the 13th. So just for me and my own peace of mind, I'm just saying that was the start just so I can say it was an unlucky day. You know what I mean? This is what you'd expect of a Friday the 13th.
Join the 27 Club? So who am I talking to right now?
No, you're talking to the former Tate Frazier, the man, the artist that once was a podcaster. Yeah, that's what you're talking.
How are you feeling? That's what the people want to know.
The people want to know, and the answer is it's quite simple. It's I'm here, and like I said, I'm alive and well. I'm not coughing as much as I was in the last episode. I obviously am in a much better location than I was than the last episode. My parents were very concerned about where I was, what I was doing, what was going on, and I just had to give them, one word, and that was quarantine. You know what I mean? I had to stay inside. I had to figure out what was going on. I still don't know definitively, but like I said, I am feeling better. And guess what, Mark Titus? I haven't even told you this. I haven't even told you this offline, and I can't wait to tell you online. I go to Yale, and I don't know if you know this, but I now go to Yale.
Wait, what?
And that is what I am a Yale student. I'm an Ivy League student. I'm part of the Ivy League champs. It's nice to be a part of such a prestigious university. It's nice to sun all these Duke kids when they talk about Ivy League things. I'm like, you wouldn't understand it. But yes, I enrolled in Intro to Classical Music at Yale University. It's available online for free. And that is what I've been doing in my free time. So I go to Yale. And you know what's the most messed up thing about this? You can pay $50 to take a free class. You get a certificate that basically is from Yale that says, like, I took a class at Yale. And I thought about getting that certificate just for the bit, but I decided against it, and I'm just going to take it for free. But, in all seriousness, I do go to Yale now.
Please respect that I go to Yale. This is fantastic. You said you did upgrade your last time. You and I kind of switched. Last show we did, I was kind of upright and looking, decent enough. And you were laying on the floor in a dark room. God knows where you were. Now we switched. Like you seem to be put together. I am not. I'm laying on my floor in front of my couch. This is one of my favorite things about the quarantine is all these shows that are continuing. We get to see. We now have record of every media member's office and living room in America. Every sports media guy on earth is now coming to you live from his office, and they all got the books in the background, the bookshelf, all that. I'm really upset, man, because I had a great setup in Ohio. If this quarantine would have happened last year, I would have been stunned like crazy with my office in Ohio with like all the books I had hanging up and like my jersey and all that kind of stuff.
The Final Four posters.
And now I'm just in this dumpy apartment in LA, and I'm laying on my floor because I can't get a good angle on anything. It's it affects us all in different ways. This thing is taking a toll on all of us.
We're all taking our hits out here. Nobody's safe.
So you are now at Yale. What I've been up to since the last show, which I want to preempt it. I want to apologize to everybody. I was a little crazy on last show. I was a little bit like I don't know. My emotions were getting the best of me. This whole thing was it was too much. It was all just too much. I was going out. I was just paying attention to what was happening in the world and also the tournament, and I was trying to mourn that. And I wanted to do anything on earth except the show. And unfortunately, the Fox lawyers are like, "Well, you're not going to get paid unless you do the show." So I was like, "Shit, I guess I got to do the show."
Yeah, we're like, I can't wait to do the show.
I'm in a better mood now. One thing that has changed is I shaved. I impulsively woke up and just shaved my entire face, which is the first time in a very long time I've not had a beard. Why I did it, I don't know. The quarantine, again, it's taking its toll on all of us, and it manifests in weird ways. I've been playing a lot of board games. That's what I'm up to. That's my update, my quarantine update. What else? I watched The Prestige yesterday. What a great movie. You're loving this.
So
You're loving
good.
the quarantine.
I'm
The
loving
Prestige
it
is so good, dude. Speaking of movies and quarantine, what are you texted the group the other day that you've been watching basketball movies? Should we rip through our basketball movies? What are the best basketball movies to watch in the quarantine?
Well,
Do you have any?
number one,
Or is this too much? All right.
No, I have my shirt on, number one. So Space Jam is my favorite movie of all time, and also, historically, this is the last time the NBA shut down was because Michael Jordan had to go beat the Monstars. So that was like a little historical, little.
We've been here before.
We've been here before, and it was good to see that Michael Jordan can always save us at the end of the day, even though he's not at the height of his powers, he can still save us. So that was good to know, and like in the back of my mind.
Is that what Space Jam 2? Have they already made Space Jam 2, or is this going to be a rewrite that LeBron is saving us from Corona? Is that going to be
I think he's just not going to be able to save us because he's not able to go to the facilities. That's what he's going to say on Space Jam 2. He's like, all right, I cannot go to the facilities.
Yeah, I mean,
I wish it's like I wish that I could, but I don't have a hazmat suit here.
Space Jam 2 is LeBron. He's doing a PSA on the importance of washing your hands, and it's like an hour and a half of LeBron like doing the Coach O PSA where he's like, "This is LeBron James, and folks, here's what," and that's just the entire. Go Tigers.
Yeah, I couldn't hear a word that Coach O said in that hand washing thing, but I loved it every second of it. I was like, this is really good, I think. But yeah, watch Space Jam the other day. Lives up to the hype. Bill Murray, funny as ever, all great. My number 2 is He Got Game. Haven't watched that. That's something that I really always tune into. And then number 3 on my list, I said Hoop Dreams because like you and I have both seen Hoop Dreams, but it almost has to be on the list in that order. Like it has to be in the top 3, or you're like kind of being offensive to just like the hustle of basketball, I feel like. So I'll say that's number 3.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Joanna Man. And Joanna Man was not in my top 5 as early as 4 days ago. But after watching it recently and realizing yet again that it was filmed in Charlotte and it had so many North Carolina little things that kind of pop up, I'm like, wow, Joanna Man, amazing. And then number 5 is White Men Can't Jump, and that's also one of those like historical precedent I have to throw in there. But really, number 1 is Teen Wolf, and I don't think people consider that a basketball movie. I think there's some people that get upset about that. But Styles is one of my favorite characters, and he's in Teen Wolf, and he's best friends with Michael J. Fox's character, and it's a basketball movie. And those are my top 5/top 6.
Is Teen Wolf a basketball movie? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie of basketball movies?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And the answer is definitively yes, because it is played pretty much on a basketball court. That's how it plays out, and that's when he becomes the wolf.
Yeah.
That's what the wolf.
We have very similar. We have very similar tastes, which is why we get along so well. I have all of everything you said. Hoop Dreams would probably be number 1, but Hoop Dreams doesn't really feel. I feel like documentaries. If we're really being serious, like all the top 5 should all be documentaries. Like Benji was a great 30 for 30, and Hoop Dreams is awesome. My favorite part about Hoop Dreams, for all you folks listening, if you want to go back and rewatch it, is Kevin O'Neal, who coached Arizona for a half second. He was at Marquette at the time, and he's doing the recruiting pitch, and he goes into one of those living rooms and plays like a video to get I forget which kid. I had a long time since I watched Hoop Dreams. I just remember this story. He goes in, he's recruiting one of those kids, and he plays the video, the Marquette what would you call it, the glamour reel, the reel that's just like, Marquette's awesome, you should come here. He puts the VHS in the VCR. Yeah, the highlight reel, I guess it would be called. And it's set to I've Had the Time of My Life. That song. I've had the time of my life. And it's just like all Marquette stuff. And he's in the inner city of Chicago trying to get these kids to marry. I'm like, what the hell? That right there is, I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, so that's how college basketball works. These dorky white dudes go into these black neighborhoods to get these guys to commit to them, and they have no idea what the hell they're doing. And wow, this is great. College basketball. Gotta love it.
Yeah, documentaries should be different, but yeah, it's so good that it has to be in the list. So we'll throw it in there. But are you gonna say Hoosiers? That's what most people on Twitter. I know
Hoosiers, yeah, of course, dude.
Yeah, okay. I did not say.
Yeah, Hoosiers. Yeah.
That's what.
Of course, Hoosiers is my number 1. Of the non-documentaries, it's got to be Hoosiers for obvious reasons. I don't know. I don't need to defend Hoosiers. People shit on Hoosiers because it's
cool.
Listen, it's cool to Hoosiers invented the sports movie. I don't even care what time. I don't even care if other sports movies came out before Hoosiers. Hoosiers invented the sports movie. That was the first sports movie in my mind that ever existed, and then everyone else just copied it. So yeah, you go back and watch it. It's like the Seinfeld isn't funny trope, where everyone copied Seinfeld for so much that you go back and watch Seinfeld and people think it's not funny because it's just like basic humor. It's because everyone else copied it. That's what Hoosiers is. Hoosiers was the greatest at the time. Everyone copied it. And then now you go back and watch it, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. You've only seen it before because everyone copied Hoosiers. Hoosiers is the best. That's my.
And no one's ever seen Jimmy Chitwood play at that level. You know what I mean? No one's ever seen another Jimmy Chitwood. Yeah. They would never understand it unless they believe in Gordon Hayward, I guess, because he's the living example.
I gotta say, speaking of Hoosiers, I got this from my dad today that the ISA state tournament was canceled, and I guess was just canceled now. Like it hasn't been canceled. I think they postponed it initially, and they officially canceled it. I can only imagine what Bill Titus his thoughts are. My high school was still in the tournament. They had won their sectional state. They were humming along. It looked like there might be some state championships in store for the Dogs. He gave me the text though that I don't think my dad was disagreeing with it. I think it was just like it's just fun. All the things that have been canceled in this world in the last week and everything that's getting shut down. I think this was like the final straw for my dad. He was like, "You sons of bit!" Like he's finally like, you know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I don't care I don't care if this makes me, what this makes me look like, but I'm gonna say it. Coronavirus, I don't like it. He just finally.
Yeah, you're like,
I don't like it.
Neither do I. Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know if you watched the debates, like Joe Biden and Bernie. Like I was watching the debates and going through Twitter, and someone was like, "I'm pretty sure Joe Biden's gonna fight coronavirus by the end of this thing." You know what I mean? Like that's what I feel like the energy is coming out.
Let's talk about this documentary. What are you showing me?
A drop the mic moment
for a minute.
Christian Dawkins.
Like it.
That's what we got to talk about because I have the New York Times.
And the New York Times.
And here,
how about that?
The New York Times. This is the headline, folks. A drop the mic moment for a man who paid college basketball recruits. A documentary pulls back the layers of corruption in the college game with a talent scout who was part of it. And for people that are just joining the program, for you and I, this is basically our watershed moment. This was the moment that you and I, after all the jokes, after all, the wink winks and things like that, the FBI came out and said, we have your game plan. We understand how this works. And we're going to basically expose the underbelly of college basketball via Christian Dawkins. And now, 2.5 years later, we have a documentary called The Scheme on HBO where allegedly all of this will happen. Will it happen, Mark Titus? That is my first question.
The tapes are being released.
That it will happen?
All signs seem to be pointing to this is really bad for Will Wade. Although, is it? Because, listen, what I read, I think I read Matt Norlander's write-up on CBS about this. He got a screener and saw it early and then wrote, like, the juiciest detail. He basically spoiled it for everybody. Thanks Norlander. Really appreciate that. But he was going through the big bullet point is that we have the tapes now. The tapes have been released. There are wiretaps of Dawkins talking to Will Wade and also talking to Sean Miller. But he said that apparently it's pretty damning for Will Wade, but it's not damning for Sean Miller because Sean Miller is a genius and knows how to like talk about this stuff without actually talking about this stuff and be very vague. Like Sean Miller's lived his whole life thinking that he's being tapped, so he's ready for this stuff. He's not that stupid. He knows how to cover his tracks.
He was not surprised that he was being tapped. Yes.
Yeah. He was not surprised at all. Like when the cops came when the FBI banged on Sean Miller's door, he was drinking a glass of scotch and just crossed his legs in his chair and they opened the door and he's like, "What took you so long? I've been waiting for you guys. I knew this was coming. I've been waiting."
Yeah.
Will Wade, however, we already had the one wiretap right where he said a strong ass offer to what was it, Smart, Javonte Smart, right?
Javonte Smart.
Yeah, he made Javonte Smart. He made him a strong ass offer. I think I remember that being the phrase. We had talked about this before, but he's also talking about Jerron Blossom game. And when he was recruiting Jerron Blossom game, he says that we could compensate him. He's talking to Dawkins, and he says we could compensate Blossom game better than the rookie minute. Blossom game ended up going to Clemson for those like not following they don't remember the stuff. And then apparently in this documentary, it cuts to Christian Dawkins. And instead of like being upset that like Will Wade has not gotten really anything, nothing's really happened to Will Wade in terms of NCAA violations or I mean, it could be coming, obviously. But the FBI, he's not been arrested. He has not been, he's not fired. Not, he really hasn't had anything of consequence that he's had to deal with. Whereas Christian Dawkins has been arrested and had his name dragged through the mud and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So you would think maybe Dawkins would be a little upset about this. No. It cuts to Dawkins apparently. And he just he says, the audacity, you got to take your hat off to him, man. He not only did he not get charged for anything, not only did the government have all this information and evidence and nothing was happening on a criminal level, he also basically just said F you to the NCAA and the university he worked for. Man, that was some G shit.
He considers himself like a star of his own Sopranos at this point. This is his version of The Wire. This is Will Wade on the record on HBO having people say that, again, he's doing quote-unquote G shit. And the reason that he likes Will Wade is because in this article on the New York Times, he says Sean Miller deserves an agent, a Hollywood agent, because he's such a good actor. He was like, after seeing Sean Miller in the press, we remember the press conference with Sean with Sean Miller, and he said, and I never would, when he's talking about paying players. He's like, never have I ever paid a player at the University of Arizona, and I never would. And he said all these different things, and I never knew Christian Dawkins, even though now he says he kind of knew him. He's like, I kind of knew him, but like I didn't know him. I didn't know him back then when I was like on trial basically for the university, but now I kind of know him. So Sean Miller, he is more against because he thinks he's more of an actor. Will Wade, in his mind, is more forward-facing, which makes me, ask the question: if you're a fan of Arizona or LSU, which one would you rather have? Like the guy that's like the ultimate liar, or the guy who's like basically saying, "Hey, come after me because this is how we're doing things."
This is old guard versus new guard. Sean Miller is the old guard line of cheating, of paying guy, of dropping the bag. That's the old guard. Is like you cover your tracks. You're always vague. You're always just you deny things. Like you're so specific with your denial in his press conference when he's like, I did not pay $100,000 to DeAndre Ayton via wire transfer on December 12th, and he's just so specific. So that way, when you go back and look at it, you're like, well, you didn't do that, but you did pay him on the 13th or something. He finds ways.
He was like,
that's
but
the
I
old
said
guard. That's the way you do it. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's how the old guard does it. Is you muddy the water. The new guard, which I'm excited about this era of college basketball, is represented by guys like Will Wade, who just stick their chest out and they're like, I paid the guys. Like, I don't care. This is how college basketball works. In fact, not only do I not care, I would say, and not only am I not a villain, I would say I'm a hero because these kids deserve money. I'm going to give them money, and this is what everyone wants. Everyone wants these college basketball players to get paid. I'm doing my part. Come fight me. That's all I got to say about that. Drop the mic moment, like you said, and you walk away.
Yeah.
If that's where we're headed, I mean, it's great for content guys like you and I. I'll say that much. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Dawkins said, look, it's an easy game for these coaches. You pay $50,000 and you make $5 million. He was like, those are pretty good odds. And if you think about it, that's pretty much what the system we have in place is. It's like you got to pay, a certain number, which is like at the most we think is around like $300,000. That's the most that's ever been reported for Nas Reed out of, LSU with Will Wade. So that's your top number. But you're still making $5 million a year. You're still making pretty good overhead. You know what I mean? Like as far as
that's some G shit, baby.
And, yeah, some G shit. That's some pretty G shit. You mentioned the paying of the players legally. We should point this out that it came out that the NCAA they are going to, due to the COVID-19 concerns, they're going to push back the NIL conversation for players to get paid for their likeness because that conversation needs to be had at a later date at this point. So. Right on cue. Right on cue. Let's get that. Let's push
out of
that
respect. Out of respect to the country and everything we're dealing with, we are going to revisit this 10 years from now. We're sorry. We're sorry, guys.
Yes. Unless Will Wade really gets 5 stars, we will. Then we won't reassess.
I swear we were going to discuss it. We were about to let players get paid, but now it would just be insensitive, so we're not going to, and we're sorry. It's just the way it is. I'm proud of you, man. You were reading the New York Times. You really did. You really are a Yale student. This is it's really paying off.
I just wanted to let you know that if I get a little hoity-toity and pretentious, it's just because I go to Yale, and I blame my classmates more than anything.
All right. Well, we will keep that on the. We will monitor the situation, as they say in college basketball circles. For March 31st, when that documentary comes out, I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot. Although maybe not, because maybe Matt and Orlando just already spoiled all the juicy parts. And but oh well, we'll rehash it. We got nothing but time on our hands. With that being said, let's get to it, Tate. Let's talk to Cassius Winston, see what he's up to. Here it is, our interview with Cassius Winston. All right, joining us now from his apartment in East Lansing is the all-time assist leader in Big Ten history, the 2019 Big Ten Player of the Year. He's the All-American point guard of your Michigan State Spartans. It is Cassius Winston. Cassius, we have to start here. A week ago, we all found out together that the NCAA tournament was canceled. This was your senior year. You guys were playing well, all of that. Take us through how you found out, what your emotions were, just that whole period of time where you basically found out your career ended not on a basketball court.
We practiced the morning of getting ready to go to the tourney, and like before the end of practice, like they told us that the Big Ten tourney was canceled. So like we still practicing though, and like we knew the tourney was over, so we like, all right, we're gonna finish practice. and we finished practice on a good note. He told us the news, and then like we kind of just sat in the locker room like, okay, it's not all that bad, you know. By the time we'll be able to go to the tourney and play, and then I think maybe like 2 hours later, like I was at the crib, and they just told us that yeah, your season's over, like the it's canceled. They brought us back to the Breslin Center. We had a huge meeting. Coach was crying. Guys were sad. Like we were just like, we were just shocked, you know, like the season really ended. Like that's it. Like it was just a huge shock.
And it's crazy, Cassius, too, because like you mentioned it being a shock, but like today is the Thursday that the tournament would actually start. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, for Titus and I, this is the time that we talk about, you know, all these games, and you know we're usually watching a million games, and obviously you're usually playing in this, and you're watching all the games that they happen. But it just feels like this weird sense of calm that's all over everything, right? I mean, there's really nothing to do other than play video games.
Yeah, definitely. It's like everything just stopped. Like I don't know, like the world almost just stopped. Like all I can do right now, I've been playing Warzone, Call of Duty. On Call of Duty, I've been playing that a lot. Me and my brother. So that's kind of how I've been filling my time. Just figuring out what's next.
There is like the silver lining in all this is you did go out a winner. The last time you took the court, was your senior night. I was in the building. You took it to my beloved Ohio State Buckeyes. Rocket Watts was banking in threes, which was very annoying. First of all, I guess I want to start here before we talk about your senior night experience. Do you want to apologize to me for taking so long to kiss the Spartan? I mean, my God, like what was going on? I'm just kidding. He's looking at me like, what? What? No, I'm really curious because like I was at the game and then I'm sure you saw the comments. Like Chris Holtman was like, "What the hell is taking so long?" And then Coach Izzo and everyone like we all know the tradition and all that. But it did feel like Coach Izzo didn't know how to handle it because he wanted to give all you guys your own time. But then also he was like at one point you guys just threw the ball away to try to set up a situation. Yeah, what was that whole secret? Like what were the timeouts like when he's trying to get all you guys off the course so you have your moments to wave to the fans?
Honestly, it's not even a timeout. Like we don't even practice like what we're gonna do at the end of the game because we don't know how to end the game. Like we might be in an actual game, we might be up 10, we might be down 1, so we don't actually know how. So we don't. It's no script to it. It's kind of like, all right, you look at the score. You look at the time, and sometimes he might want to do it at like 3 minutes. Sometimes he let it go depending on the score. So I think it was at like 2 minutes left in the game. And like it just, I don't know, it's chaos. Like you got guys stepping out of bounds. You got guys kind of running around trying to foul. So everybody can just have had a little one moment where, you know, you try to do it individually. So you sub one person in, one person goes out, then the next person sub comes. You try to do that.
You had your final shot should have been the step back three you hit, and then you kind of got forced into shooting another shot. Is that something you're upset about? Because I felt for you in that moment because you had like you could have ended on a make, and they kind of made you shoot another one. Yeah, that was funny.
But I tried to go on a make, but I was low key. I was trying to get 32 though, so I'm gonna try to shoot this one too.
We love that. Cassius, how aware of you? You know, obviously this has been like you've been big time. You've been prime time with the Michigan State for the past 3 or 4 years, or 4 years, pretty much since you got there on campus. But this season there was so much hype going into it because Titus and I have talked about this multiple times. It's been 20 years since a Big Ten team was able to get a title. And obviously that team was the Flintstones, with Coach Izzo and that Michigan State team. So going into the season, having to carry that, that burden, I guess, going into the season, is it nice that you don't have to worry about that anymore? I mean, it's not your fault. In my mind, you guys would have won.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice that I can say that, we had a chance to do it. Nobody could take that away from us. In our eyes, I think we was going to win the national championship. So I guess nobody will ever know. We were playing really good basketball. We had all the things that we kind of needed to make a run. So, in my eyes, I'm going to say we accomplished everything. We lived up to the hype, and all that.
Can you explain to us how that works? You said you guys were playing great basketball. Obviously, you were preseason #1 team in the country. You had your ups and downs throughout the year, but then you found a way to peak in March. And this is a thing that Coach Izzo always seems to figure out. And those of us in the media that cover college basketball, we kind of laugh at it. That no matter how bad Michigan State might look in December or January, we know that come March, you guys are going to be playing good basketball. From behind closed doors, how does that work? Is this I have a theory that Coach Izzo has manufactured adversity where he tells you guys to lose games on purpose and so he can use it as teaching moments throughout the season. from your perspective, why is it that Michigan State, after spending 4 years there, why is it that you guys always seem to be playing your best basketball come March?
I mean, adversity is a actual true word. We go through so much in the season. Like we play the toughest early preseason schedule, so like it's either one of those games. Like you could lose either one of those games in our preseason. So sometimes we win them, sometimes we lose them, but it's never like we're getting blown out or anything like that. Like we're competing, and then you play those games, and then you go into the Big Ten, which is a dogfight every night. So you're playing against battling teams. You got freshmen who out there don't know what they're really doing. You got guys who in new positions each year because a guy that was a star or key piece last year. We had guys who didn't even play last year had to turn into key pieces. So all those things are kind of happening. And, all the outside world sees us, that's Michigan State, and Michigan State always doing this, always doing that. But we're, like, working towards that through the whole year. And, that's our whole mindset.
It's a genius climb. And we should point out, we were at the Maui Invitational. Titus and I, we were the Maui Invitational brand ambassadors this year. So we were doing live shows from there. And we witnessed you guys lose in Maui. And then we had a scoop. And we wanted you to confirm
twice, right?
So it was
once.
Well,
lost one.
Well, no. We'll just say,
you guys,
was it once?
You guys just lost once, yeah.
You guys
I forget.
Once. Yeah, you only lost
they only
one.
lost
so,
one. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
We know. But when that happened, we got a scoop that you guys weren't allowed to get in the pool or get in the ocean, that Tom Izzo had banned you guys from being able to go in the water. So we want to confirm that. Was that 100% true? Was that real adversity?
I can neither confirm nor deny. I can't even remember.
Well, we remembered after you guys lost, because we stayed in the same hotel as you guys. Tate and I were in the pool just drinking pina coladas, and we kept seeing like all your teammates basically like stepping up with their toes like up to the water, and they wanted to put their toes in, but they got they're turning around looking, see if any of the coaches can see. We were like, man, that's the saddest thing ever, to fly halfway around the world and you can't even get in the pool after one game.
Nah,
man, that's
it
tough.
Gets tough like that sometimes. For sure, it gets tough like that.
Yeah, no wonder you guys.
Speaking of Coach Izzo, here's another thing I've always been fascinated with Coach Izzo is the arm around the shoulder when you get called over to the sideline. He's like, Cassius, come here. We got to talk about something. And you go over and you're standing during a free throw or something, and you throw your arm around his shoulder, and you're like, what's up, Coach? And this is something that Mateen Cleaves did, Draymond did, Denzel Valentine. It's something that all the guys seem to do. But I'm always fascinated by, like, how do you get the right to do that? Is that something that, like, does Coach call you into his office? He's like, Cassius, we need to talk. I now give you the permission to throw your arm around my shoulder during a free throw? Or is it like, what is it the first time you do that and you just go for it? You're like, screw it, I'm doing it, and you just throw your arm around his shoulder. What is that process?
Honestly, it's a tip that the older guys kind of give to the younger guys, because when you go, you're gonna be acting crazy. You already know he gonna come after you. So if you get over there and put your arm around his shoulder, like, he kind of like calm him down a little bit, like, so he can relax a little bit. So that's why all the guys told me, like, when you go over there, look him in his eyes, put your arm around his shoulder, and it won't be as bad as it usually be.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, we need that. We need more of that. You pointed out, Titus just brought up all those other guys. I mean, Draymond, Denzel Valentine, Mateen Cleaves, all these other guys that have been in the, the Tom Izzo, tree of, Michigan State greats. Where do you consider yourself, in that list of guys? Because we said that you're on the Mount Rushmore, which obviously only has 4 spots. So we think you're in the top 4. But can you just go ahead and put out to the world that you think you're, official in that Mount Rushmore? Or are you going to be modest and say that you don't know?
Yeah, talk some smack.
Talk some junk.
Y'all ain't going to catch me saying that. I'm going to let somebody else say that.
What was the senior – in all seriousness, what was the senior night like? Being in the building, I was telling Tate, you could tell that, like, first of all, no one left. None of the Michigan State fans left. And you could say that's like Coach Izzo's doing his best to say this is a tradition of Michigan State. None of the fans ever leave on senior night. But come on, we know that, like, the real reason everyone is sticking around is for you, and you're so beloved on that campus. You feel the love, I'm sure, at Michigan State. What was that like, just kind of knowing it was your last time in the Breslin Center, which, as it turned out, being your last time even putting the jersey on, to be there and to see, what was it, like 45 minutes after the game ends, it's still a crowded, the place is packed, people are going nuts for you. Just that whole emotion, what is that like for you?
It was unreal. It felt like a movie, kind of. Like the whole day just felt like somebody was watching me. Like it was all planned. It was all destined out for it to end like this. Like I don't know, something about it felt like almost like unreal, like a movie. Like my whole family was there, played a game, won a championship. Happened to be my last game ever, college game ever. Like all of that was just kind of like somebody set that up. So it was a lot of emotion. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely a good day.
And Rocket Watts was banking in threes. We can add that to the unbelievable part of it all. What the hell was that? I knew we were screwed when that happened. He banked in 2 threes in the first. I'll never get over it. He banked in 2 threes. I told Tate he missed every shot he took, and he somehow had 11 points at halftime. I don't know how it happened.
Love Rocket Watts.
No, yeah, he can be special.
Can we go back in time a little bit? I want to talk about your sophomore year. I thought you guys were the best team in the country, but it was a very bizarre year. That was a very bizarre team. To remind our listeners, you had you at the point guard, Josh Langford was the 2, Miles Bridges, Jaren Jackson, and Nick Ward was a starting 5. Ward. You guys were number 1 for at one point in the season. I don't remember. You were when you lost to Ohio State. I remember that one. But it was a weird season. You guys lost at Syracuse. You lost to Syracuse in the second round. That team has. I feel like that was one of the best Big Ten teams we've seen in a long time, and you guys never really seemed to click. And it was never. What happened? I just want to. I've always been fascinated by that team. Like why was that team not playing its best basketball in March?
And don't say Nick Ward.
Yeah.
Nah. I mean, that's a good question.
Do you even remember?
A lot that season. It feel like a minute ago. I remember we weren't loaded. And I don't know about not click because we did go 30-5. So like I feel like we was winning games.
You were good, but like
maybe
all right, fine. Never mind.
Games. That might have hurt us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I felt like you guys were.
You kind of gotta.
You guys were like Maryland this year, where like you were winning, but you weren't actually good. I didn't think.
Like playing good basketball. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. We were winning games, so maybe you got to lose some games to kind of like figure it out. But we was winning, so we kept going. Right. What was happening?
I think this is where Coach Izzo gets his manufactured adversity. He makes you throw games because teams like that, you're not losing. You don't get the chip on your shoulder. Yeah, you need to lose more often. That's what it is.
There. You do not want to lose.
Cassius, can you give us one Nick Ward story? Just anything that you can think of when you think of Nick Ward, because he's by far my favorite player.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's enough. Just laughing like that's enough. That's all we needed. How about it? Hey, let's do a positive one. I had this listed. Tell me what was more satisfying last year. You beat Michigan 3 times. No, not even last year. Last year you beat Michigan 3 times. So give me what was more satisfying? Beating Michigan 3 times last year, knocking out the Duke team with Zion Williamson that everyone couldn't stop talking about last year, and you guys beat them. You had a great game in the Elite 8 to make it to the Final Four, or dropping 32-9 on Xavier Simpson and shutting everyone the hell up who says that Xavier Simpson could put the clamps on you this year. Which of those 3 was the most satisfying experience for you?
I mean, it probably had to be going to the Final Four. Yeah, that's what I say. Like the Duke game.
All right.
It was literally us against the world. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that one going to a Final Four, that's a crazy experience. So that's probably up there. But the other ones are definitely high up there too. You know what I'm saying? Those are good feelings.
Can you give us one RJ Barrett story?
Yeah. You said what?
One RJ Barrett story from that Duke game? Something you saw
from RJ Barrett in the Duke game?
Yeah. Something you saw on the court. Did you see any chemistry problems with that team? Were you happy to have your guys at that point?
I didn't recognize that. What happened?
He's trying.
I didn't see none of that. I did not see.
No, just a Duke question. Just a Duke question. Wanted to see what was going
on. I had another question. Did Matt McQuaid fall down in practice as often as he did in games, or is that just something he saved for the games?
No, actually saved for the game. In practice, he was cool. In the game, he just happened to be all.
Because there's no refs. Yeah, there were no refs in practice. He could flop. Yeah.
Well, Cassius,
here's a question. Go ahead, Tate.
No, I was gonna say, Cassius, like, what's next for you? Like, obviously, we're chilling in the quarantine right now, and we're figuring that all out. But like, is there anything like we got Tum Tum? I know Tum Tum's working with the team now and is around all the time. Like what is your plan to stay around East Lansing? Like, is there any sort of like immediate stuff that you're looking toward? Because we want to keep up with you. We don't know what's next.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, probably meet with some agents, sign with an agent. Start getting ready for the draft. You know, that's the ultimate goal is to go play at the NBA. So I'm gonna try to figure out when the gym and things like that. Stuff around here kind of on shutdown right now. So, but it kind of happened at a good time because I usually take a week and a half off after the anyway. So just waiting for things to open back up and get ready.
Love it.
Yeah, that's got to be weird, man. Preparing for the NBA draft when we don't even know if the draft's going to be when it's supposed to be, and we don't know when you can work out and if there's a combine and all that kind of stuff. That's crazy.
It's a lot of unknowns right now. So I'm kind of just waiting. Like I said, just waiting.
Hey, we mentioned earlier that you were in Maui. Also in Maui was the Dayton Flyers and Obi Toppin, who is a lot of people's pick for National Player of the Year. And the only guy that seems to be able to beat him is Luka Garza, who's in the Big Ten, who you also played. So you were in Maui. I don't know how much you paid attention to Dayton when you were in Maui because you were probably getting yelled at by Coach Izzo the whole time. But what is your where do you fall on the Obi Toppin versus Luka Garza debate, Cassius? We need to hear it from a guy, an All-American weighing in on this. Who are you taking for National Player of the Year if it's those two guys? Uh-oh, on the spot. He's doing the calculation of like, how do I answer this without making people mad?
Garza was crazy this year, but I might have to take Toppin. Just the kind of the control he had over like college basketball, like that's hard to do. So like, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what gets you that award. So I have to go with him. But Garza was crazy this year.
He went between his legs in a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
He had some like he's like I said, he was just must see TV, and like that's what you got to be.
Did you? How many career dunks do you have?
Zero
in high school too?
Yeah, in the game. Yeah, in the game.
That's awesome.
I've dunked before, just nothing.
That's awesome. That's actually a point of pride. I think you should never. Have you ever tried? Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever had a fast break where you're like, this might?
Never. I never recrossed my mind. Nah, just give out easy 2.
2 points are 2 points, baby. You don't get style points. That's not how it works.
Cassius Winston, Mr. Fundamentals.
My last question is, I wanted to ask about your headband. I've been fascinated by your headband decisions where it feels like a lot of times you wear like a really ragged old headband that looked like it was from the 2000 team. It looked like Mateen Cleaves or like Mo Pete had given you the headband. It looked like it was real old and raggedy. But then other times you come out wearing like a fat guy that looked like fresh out the box. What went behind the decision with your headband every game? Like, was this a conscious thing or did you just kind of leave it up to someone else, or is it good luck charm or what?
No, I get a new headband every game. I tell somebody you want.
But what was the thin one? What's the thin one that's like?
That's just they ordered a whole bunch of headbands at the beginning of the year. I guess some were different than others. I don't know. It happened that way.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh man.
I like the idea of passing the head. Yeah, I like the idea of passing the headbands down. We'll make up that story. We'll put that out. We'll be like, yeah, Mateen Cleaves passed it down to Kalen Lucas, who then gave it to Keith Appling. Yeah, all the way down to Cassius Winston.
Yeah, you got to bequeath the headband to somebody next year. You got to have a guy on a recruiting visit. You got to give your headband out and be like, this one's for you, son. Good luck taking over maybe that's Rocket Watts. Maybe Rocket gets to wear it now. Maybe that's how it works.
Hopefully nobody wears it like ops. That'd be
that'd be nice. Yeah. I had another question. Who do you is there anyone around the country that you keep in touch, like other players that you have a relationship with that aren't on Michigan State that people love this, like college basketball? I remember when I was growing up, like hearing Adam Morrison and JJ Redick like texted each other. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Those guys, I thought they never would even know each other exist, and now they're actually kind of friendly. Is there someone around the country that you have a relationship with from AAU days or something like that people don't know about?
I mean, not consistently. I know a lot of those guys. Toppin, I know Miles Powell, like all
Yeah.
those guys, Nate Pritchard. Like I know all those guys. I talk to those guys but I wouldn't say nobody like my best friend or anything like that. But I do reach out. I
No,
do
I don't mean.
talk to
Yeah.
those guys
Yeah.
quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we love it.
All right.
We love to hear there's like a top guard of college basketball guys.
Cool. All right. Anything else, Tate? Is that it? We can let this man get back to playing some Call of Duty.
Yeah, exactly. Just enjoy Call of Duty, and we appreciate you coming on, Cassius.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it.
All right, and we're back thanks to Cassius Winston. Again, one of the greats for the Michigan State Spartans, and he confirmed it. Or I guess he didn't really confirm it, but he basically confirmed it. But they were not allowed to swim in the pools in Maui, so we finally have that. Our first scoop of the season finally confirmed by the man himself, Cassius Winston. Thanks, Cassius.
This was big for you. You've been wanting confirmation on that for a long time. This is very important to you that you. I can't believe he actually answered Garza versus Toppin, and I can't believe he went with Toppin. Although I can, because Toppin's better and Toppin deserves to win it. But I would have sworn he was going to stick with this Big Ten guy, and I'm happy about that he said Toppin. That was cool.
Let's be quite honest about this. If he was a junior, he would have said Garza because he would have been in the Big Ten again next year.
Right.
You gotta play the Big Ten game. But now that he's not in the Big Ten anymore, he's like, you know what? Yeah, Toppin. Let's go ahead and lock that in.
If he was a junior, Tom Izzo would have his arms crossed, standing on the other side of him as he's doing that interview. And before he answered, he would have looked up at Coach and been like, "What do I say? Garza? Okay, Garza. Okay, yeah. It's Garza.
He's
yeah,
like
definitely
55.
Garza. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Do you want to go over your national championship situation that you're obsessed with?
Yeah, it's
Set the
it's
stage
not
for it.
even,
Tell us what's going on here.
Yeah, so in the world of college basketball, in the world of Twitter, in the world of social media, world of conversation around the sport, there's limited conversation now because there is no tournament, and then everyone's like, well, who cares? I mean, it's all over. But for the people that are in it, everyone really cares. And in fact, probably about 5 days ago on Twitter, Mark Titus, I could have texted you and said, I think it's going to happen. I think that Kansas is going to get the national championship. I just think all the tides are turning towards, well, I mean, the coaches are saying Kansas. Tate Frazier's saying Kansas. You know, Evan Daniels saying
enough.
Kansas. All these people, yeah, they're like, that's three strikes, and it's the Jayhawks. But then what happens is the other fans of the other teams start, you know, kind of, I think they saw what I saw, which was like, Kansas is going to get named the national champion. And then Bomani Jones comes out and he's like, how are we going to get Bill Self a national championship when, you know, this man loses in the first round like it's his job? And then, of course, you know, the Kansas fans they're up in arms about this because they're like, look at the tape. You know, this man goes to the Final Four. He was in the national championship game 2 years ago. And it just created all this like back and forth. And then the conversation kind of goes away. And then again, it comes back. People are making their own simulations. Someone at The Athletic had simulated the entire tournament based on the rosters, putting them in an NCAA 12, like as if that's going to give us an answer. I don't know who won that because I don't pay for that stuff. I don't know. But obviously someone that wouldn't have won that one. So chalk that up for what it is. And then ESPN puts out an article where they have all – yeah, well, that's what you would think, right? Just
the Athletic would be Duke. Like,
yeah.
if we're being honest. Yeah.
Seth's like Duke.
Seth stepped ahead, yes. No matter who it was, Seth Davis stepped in and was like, no, run the simulation again. Run it again until we get Duke. All right, print it.
Duke. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Way to go, guys. Everyone's doing a great job. I got to get out of here. ESPN has their own version of this, right? And then their final game, and again, I love the BYU Cougars, their final national championship game was the Wisconsin Badgers versus the BYU Cougars, and in a complete shootout that ended up being, I think the final score they said was like 56-52 or something stupid like that. The Wisconsin Badgers were holding up the trophy at the end, which honestly, to me, I could see in this world of message for the haters, because if anyone had a message, it was Greg Gard, a man that we at one point during this season thought, oh my God, they lost their second leading scorer in the middle of the year. What's going on? Is this going to be, you know, the beginning of the end of Greg Gard? So in this hypothetical world of national champions, according to ESPN and their own version of this, Greg Gard has the greatest message of the haters all season long. He got to the mountaintop. He was able to let people know that he was better than Bo Ryan. So in the hypothetical ESPN reality, Greg Gard is the man, and he is the new guard, and we should be bowing down to him. But again, he never had this moment. It would have happened just like they wrote it. So I hate that for Greg Gard. I hate that for Wisconsin, but I feel good for Kobe King. Good day for Kobe.
Okay. So
that's the
you're
update.
tracking all the national champions that are being awarded. We have Wisconsin, we
Yes.
have Kansas.
Yes.
I've awarded 7 of them. I think at this point, I'm losing track. I'm glad you're doing it because I as I said last show, that is one thing. Like I was in my feelings, I was in my emotions last show, and I've since come out of that, but I still stand by my decision. To not care about this tournament anymore because I just don't feel like, for me personally, it doesn't serve me well. To try to salvage this. Like I feel like it's someone has passed away and we're not burying the body. We're like keeping the body. We're like putting the body in like the recliner in our living room and spraying perfume on it and putting makeup on it and like trying to keep. No, grandpa's just fine. Like he's fine. He's fine. Let's talk it. And it's like, can we just bury it? Like, can we stop trying to pretend like this tournament's ever happening or needs to happen? Or I'm upset about it as well, but it's not. It doesn't help with the healing process to continue to run simulations. But it does help for content, so I understand that part. And
Yeah,
more
keep
power
running
to
the
you guys.
simulations because I'm going to keep up with them and I'm going to decide. Honestly, by August, I will let you know who the national champion is. And right now, if I had to do a list, it's Michigan State and Cassius Winston. They're number one on the list. But
Yeah.
that has changed since the last show, which was Kansas. Right now.
Yeah,
Michigan
right. Cassius, it all depends on who comes on the show, and
Yeah,
whoever's
exactly.
on our show last is who wins it. Yeah, I still stand by. I think next year's national championship should just be worth 2, and you should just hang 2 banners if you win. I think that's the only way to handle this. Just whoever wins it next year gets 2 titles.
You know who's going to hang a banner with 2020 national champion if I know them as well as I think I do? The show. The San Diego State fans, they're going to put a banner up. 2020 national champions.
Let's go. I got my SDSU sweatshirt on, baby. Let's go.
They're putting that up. That's for sure. Like the best record in basketball, we're the champs.
Do I have them on the list? I need to put them on the. I need to put them on my list if they're not on my list. 2020 national title, San Diego State. We forgot to ask Cassius about that, about Michigan State hanging their Big Ten banner. Maybe it's a good thing they did, because I brought that up that after they beat Ohio State, they all were on the court and they hung the banner and celebrated the Big Ten championship and all that. And we should have asked them about that, but now looking back on it, it's a good thing they did because otherwise they never had the opportunity to celebrate anything. Unfortunately, because the term was canceled. I don't know if you heard about that. Shout out to Closeout State. Wrap this thing up.
Shout outs again. You are not on Twitter right now, so I have to let you know this. This is some somber news on Twitter. A friend of the program, we used to do a segment called Good Guy, Bad Guy, Kyle Guy. And Kyle Guy is no longer in college basketball, and that's where he found his fame. And Twitter verified, as you know, if you have a blue check, there's an account that follows you that gives you this blue check. They have unfollowed, I repeat, unfollowed Kyle Guy. He no longer has a blue check, and he is up in arms. Yes, he is up in arms. And first we lost basketball, and now Kyle Guy is losing his blue check. I don't know what is happening in the world.
Is that true?
It is 100% true. Kyle Guy, no check. No verified status, despite all the followers, despite the fact that we know it is Kyle Guy. In fact, he said, I confirm I am Kyle Guy, which is something that someone that's not Kyle Guy would say, to be honest, like the fake Chris Paul kind of thing with the new commercials. But this is the real Kyle Guy, and he's lost his blue check.
We need to get him on the show. Kyle, come on the pod. Let's hash this out. Let's figure out what the hell happened. We really should reach out to him, see what he's done.
Yes, he is.
Most outstanding player for 2 years. The longest running reign of most outstanding players, Kyle Guy, in NCAA tournament history. That's too bad.
And he lost his check. Like with March, he lost March Madness, then he lost his check.
You mentioned I am off Twitter. That is a strategic decision. I'm coming back when the quarantine ends, however long that might be. I was losing my mind. I was like legitimately. I've said this a couple times, but I looked at my screen time on the days that the news broke, and it was 12 hours on one day, and the next day was like 11:48. I was like, this is a quarantine plus Twitter is a nightmare situation for me, because I'll just sit there and read. And I think that's why I was so messed up the last show, is because like all I did was just rot my brain reading every doomsday article and every guy saying don't panic like 1,000 different times. And I sat there for 12 hours a day just staring at this thing like, oh my God, this is horrible,
And for people that don't have the background, you did not have an iPhone before, so you didn't get to see.
Yeah, I didn't have the stats.
Time.
Yeah,
because I have the same problem, but I'll get to like 7 hours, and I'm like, I gotta get on my phone.
Yeah,
oh my God.
But I will say, every offseason I take like 1 or 2 months off Twitter anyway, just because Twitter's a cesspool, and I have to for my sanity. So it all lines up. Like we're technically in the off season, whatever. I just decided. I couldn't take like everyone yelling about how wrong everyone else is either.
Yes.
For how you're handling this. So, like, I don't know. I've already done that rant before. Not being on Twitter, I saw, I found out, unfortunate news, that DJ Carton is transferring from Ohio State. I found this out not on Twitter. I found this out
in real life.
I think my dad texted me and was like, Carton? My dad does this, like, where he'll text me news stories, but he'll just do it with, like, one word and a question mark.
Yeah.
And then I have to, like, now my brain goes into panic mode. I'm like, what does this mean? What is,
Corona question mark?
Like, it would not be out of the question for my dad to just text me tonight, Hummel question mark. And then I'm like, oh God, what happened to Robbie? Is Robbie like, and then my mind just starts racing and I'm like texting Robbie. I'm like, you good? What's going on? What?
Yeah.
And then you find out that, like, Hummel got inducted to the Purdue Hall of Fame. And you're like, oh, that's all it was,
You're like, that's good news.
Yeah.
I like the open. That's very Coach Titus. Don't get never too high, never too low. You figure it out.
So I saw DJ, but anyway, that was my way of saying I found out DJ Carton is transferred from Ohio State. Not exactly a huge shock, given just the circumstances. He had the mental health thing. He seemed to want to go back home. Like, he went back home to that seemed to help to be back in Iowa. And now everyone's talking Tate. Is he going to be eligible next year? First of all, is he transferring to Iowa? And if he is, can he get immediate eligibility and do the hardship waiver thing that the NCAA will give hardship waivers for anything? That you have to think mental health is certainly going to be, like, can you imagine if they decline, if he ends up going to Iowa and they decline his waiver to play right away? That would be a horrible. Jay Billis would send off all sorts of tweets in all caps. So
yeah, I think he has those saved in his draft. You know what I mean? Like something about a milk carton or like, I don't know what it is. Like he'll have something to say. He'll start some sort of campaign. But yeah, I mean, DJ Carton is a talent. You were excited about it, but you got Luther Muhammad and you got Coach Holtman will be fine. I think
Iowa's going to be loaded, man. If he goes to Iowa, Garza comes back.
Yeah,
they're not going to play any defense still, but. Dude, they're going to be unstoppable. Bohannon's coming back. He's had like 2 hip surgeries, though, so I don't know how good he's going to be. But if Carton ends up going to Iowa and he gets immediate eligibility, they're going to be nasty, and that will be interesting. So,
Big Ten stat of the day. There you go.
DJ Cotton. I always hear the DJ Khaled saying his name when I read DJ Carton's name. Speaking of transfers in Ohio State, Seth Towns. Has narrowed his list. He's a Columbus native. He went to the same high school as Jared Solinger. Harvard graduate, Seth Towns, is a prized grad transfer in college basketball, Tate. He's narrowed his list. He tweeted that he's going to make a decision this week. We are now nearing the end of the week, and he has narrowed his list to the Ohio State Buckeyes, his hometown team, and your beloved hometown Duke Blue Devils. Those are the 2 teams he's narrowed it down to. We've been here before. We've seen this story before. We saw it with Rodney Hood, who was – best friends with LaQuinton Ross. They were Mississippi boys. LaQuinton Ross was recruiting Rodney Hood to come to Ohio State. It looked like it was a done deal. And then Jeff Capel came knocking, and he left with less baggage than he arrived with, and Rodney Hood ended up in Duke. So I'm calling my shot, Seth Towns to Duke out of nowhere. During a period, by the way, where recruiting's not supposed to be going on. Yeah. He's being recruited by Duke, so he's going to go to Duke. And let
me just say this: Coach K faked a back injury in 1995 to recruit Vince Carter. You can never forget that. It wasn't it wasn't about games. It wasn't about anything other than the fact that he wanted Vince Carter to go play for Duke. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So this is the world of recruiting. Coach K is not going to stop. And Tommy Amaker, of course, is going to funnel this kid to Duke. I don't think that you should get your hopes up. Any of the hometown stuff that you think actually plays a part, it doesn't, because Duke's involved, and he's going to Duke. So congratulations, Seth. Welcome to the Duke family. It is a brotherhood, and I'm sure you'll love it.
Finally, shout out to Bryce Drew, new head coach
back
of the Grand Canyon Lopes. What are the Antelopes? Or are they just called the Lopes? Did they
just say Lopes? Let's just keep it Lopes. Yeah.
He is the new coach of the Lopes. I was thinking about this, man. The coaching carousel this offseason is going to kind of suck, isn't it? Because I feel like no one's going to get fired because everyone can argue that they would have made a run in the tournament. And it's like, you can't fire Shaka Smart now because who knows if he would have, went on a little bit of a run.
Yeah, made the tournament. Who knows? They could have made the tournament.
Could have made the tournament. He could have gone to the Final Four. We've been there before with Shaka Smart. People forget he went to the Final Four one time. So I feel like no one's going to get fired, and the coaching carousel is not going to turn, and it's not going to be that. That's unfortunate. But LMU's
No.
still open, so maybe I could get hired by LMU and we could spice things up a little bit.
That's what I'm hoping for. I hope that you get hired by LMU, and I'm hoping that Arizona fires Sean Miller, and then we get like a full bidding war with Arizona leaking that they offered Rick Pitino the chance to come visit Tucson. It's not a firm offer, but they want him to come visit. Some stuff like that. That's what I'm hoping for. Arizona is the only hope we have.
I'm sorry to say, man, as a guy who has tried to get Mike Bray hired at like 30 different schools throughout the course of this season, I think it's not happening. I don't think Mike Bray's leaving Notre Dame, unfortunately.
Mike Bray to Arizona sounds like a lot of fun to me. It's just a Nike school. That's the only holdup. Maybe they change to Under Armour, bring Mike Bray down there, and finally change things around. That's the only hope we have. Speaking of coaches that are insane, can we talk about Coach Musselman? He did a full practice.
Yeah.
For people that didn't see this, the Arkansas head coach Eric Musselman did a full run through a practice with no players. But he was also simultaneously watching a full scrimmage and talking to said players. It was probably the most insane thing you could ever see. Without the backdrop of it being a joke, I guess. But it was insanity. I'm fired up. I think that Musselman could coach these ghosts into, a championship team. But what say you? What did you think?
Musselman, I think Musselman has entered the territory of the kind of guy who, if it's your coach, you love it, and if it's not, you're like, holy hell, who is this guy? What's going on here?
Yeah, he has become a meme. Like he's part of the sister meme crowd, and he's fully leaned in. He's done the full like recruiting pitch where you do the shot, and they dunk over Musselman.
Right. He just.
What is he doing? I don't know what he's doing. And then I saw all the coaches like Nick Van Exel and all these like older like basketball guys like tweeting like, if your coach wants to be the social media star, that's not where you want to play. Like this is a social media game. And, I feel like eventually it's going to hurt Musselman, but I somehow can't look away.
Yeah, right. Like it's
I don't know. It's a beautiful train wreck.
I want to make fun of him, but at the same time, like if I was an Arkansas fan and he was doing all this shit, I'd be like, hell yeah, coach. That's why we love him. He's our guy, like
he's only been there a year and they're like, that's our coach.
That's our guy. I love coaches like that though. When they get to that point, like Kentucky's like that with Cal, obviously, like that's a great example of Cal. If Cal was a Tennessee coach and was doing everything the exact same, Kentucky fans would be losing their minds at like how he manipulates the media and complains about how it's just the whole we've gone over a million times. But he's not. He's the Kentucky coach, so they love him, and that's great. That's what makes college basketball great. We're all irrational when we cheer for our teams, and God love him. So congratulations, Eric Musselman, running a practice with no one else in the gym.
What a maniac! What an absolute maniac!
All right, that's it. That's the show. We'll be back next week. Stay safe out there, everybody. Wash your hands, and tell your loved ones you love them, but do not give them hugs. See you guys.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.